When I was a child, I would look up and point at the moon. Some of my earliest childhood memories are from when my mother would take my sister and I down to the beach on a clear summer night to look up at the moon. We would smile and point with our arms stretched out as if trying to touch its beauty, mystery, and the infinite itself. When jealous clouds obscured the view, or on nights when the moon was just a sliver, my mother would offer us her wisdom. Just because you can't see it doesn't mean it isn't there. Still, I shrugged this off, for the eye is quick to follow a pointed finger. And instead I began to think, what else can this finger point at? What else can this finger do? With that thinking, I became enamored with the world, and I stopped looking at the moon. My grandmother used to remind me of the time she tried to tie my shoe. With a hand on my hip and pride in my voice, I proclaimed, "I'm quite capable of doing that myself." "You were 4 years old," she always added at the end. Still, I noticed that my finger wasn't strong enough to do the things that I saw my older sister do. Pluck the viola gracefully, point to big words and grasp their meaning, or pull her friends close to her like a blanket. In my jealousy, I thought, when I grow up, I'm going to have a better finger. With that thinking, I became enamored with myself, and I stopped looking at the world. As a teenager, my insecurities only grew like weeds. I was desperate to do everything on my own. I didn't want to need anyone else. Even though I couldn't resolve this experience with words, I thought, I could. I should be able to do everything. I won't make a mistake. I won't show my ignorance. In my early career as an adult, this finger thought that there was an ultimate power in collecting degrees, certificates, letters after my name. I couldn't often explain what I was doing, and I was hoping that people would just see the credentials and trust that I knew everything that there was to know. How could anyone tell me that I was wrong when I had so much proof that I was right, that I was an expert? In my foolishness, I thought, I'm going to have the best finger. With that thinking, I became enamored with an image of myself, and I stopped looking at myself. With now the moon, the world, and my own self out of sight, I was lost, unable to navigate the endless seas and blackened sky with no land in sight. This was the price for believing that my own finger, my ego, was the best compass. With great fortune and gratitude, through the darkness, I saw a bright, round shape in the sky, and I was pulled to its gravity like the tide. Straining, squinting, I discovered that it was not the moon. It was a golden circle. This golden circle offered safe harbor, solid land, and enough light to find my footing, even though I could not yet explain it in words. In chapter 7, verse 25 of our scripture book, Founding Master Sote-san cautions us against the many people who claim to be experts on the principle of the nature who try to resolve it without using words. This is a serious malady, he says, for those who truly understand it should know how to clearly distinguish its head from its tail, even though originally it does not possess either head or tail, and also know how to clearly describe it in words, even though it is beyond all language. When studying this verse in our Thursday Dharma study group, I fell prey to my finger once again. Well, obviously that passage makes sense. Stay away from self-proclaimed experts who can't offer any real explanation. With wisdom and kindness, a fellow member shared with me, "Oh, this isn't about others. Sote-san is also cautioning us about ourselves. This path and practice can be a way to evaluate our own ego and responses, lest we become more deluded along the way." I realized that up until that point, this was what I was doing, deluding myself. I had taken a bite out of cake and I started calling myself a chef, even though I had never been in the kitchen. I started calling myself a chef, even though I could not resolve in words how these separate ingredients came together to become something sweeter and more fulfilling. This was the serious malady from the passage. It continues, "Those who truly understand it will show it in whatever they do, and those who are ignorant of it will show their ignorance of it in whatever they do." By relying on my ego, my own finger to serve as my guide, I was showing my true ignorance in whatever I did. Fortunately, there is a path, there is a practice, as we are given the tools to resolve our questions with words. In our scripture book, through our kyonims, and in our Dharma community. As Reverend Wanggong reminds us, the threefold study is like 3 legs of a stool. We cultivate the spirit, inquiry into human affairs and universal principles, and choice in action. Ego is not one of those legs. It will always be too short or too long, and we will never be able to find our balance. Through following this path, we come together to find ways to deepen our knowledge and gain more clear and precise language, even with the understanding that there will all be things that transcend explanation. We embrace duality, such as by speaking about the head or the tail, great and small, being and non-being, even though we know originally together it is one, it is whole, and it is complete. We take in air, and it becomes a thing. It becomes a breath that we can feel filling our lungs. We can hold it and possess it for only so long. Yet as we breathe out, we return that breath back out into the air, non-being into being, being into non-being. The founding master ends the verse by reminding us that the thousands of scriptures and tens of thousands of treatises attributed to the Buddha and the enlightened masters are just like fingers pointing at the moon. Through this practice, we come to learn that the moon itself represents ultimate truth, enlightenment, or even reality itself. The finger represents scriptures, teachings, or paths to guide us towards that truth, our original true nature, the original state of mind that exists before worry, anger, sadness, joy, that is beyond words and speech. A gateway, the origin, the source, which should sound familiar if you've been with us and read the Ilwan Song vows we did today. Even so, the Ilwan Song, this one circle image, is also serving as a finger pointing at the moon. It is our symbol and guide, even though it is beyond all language. I had dismissed my mother's wisdom in my childhood, and thus missed the deeper meaning of this metaphor. The caution to not mistake the finger, especially my own finger, for the moon itself. The finger can help guide us and direct our vision, yet the truth, just like the moon from my childhood, seen with an open heart, is beautiful, mysterious, and infinite, beyond words and speech, even though my practice calls on me to do my best to try to resolve it with words. So, when clouds obscure our view, or on nights when the moon is just a sliver, remember, just because you can't see it doesn't mean it isn't there. And with this thinking, we become practitioners, and we can return to pointing our fingers at the moon. Thank you.